The ability to admit that one was wrong. This is one of the greatest and the rarest of strengths. Very few can admit that one of their actions was wrong. Very few can admit that one of their beliefs, claims, arguments, or ideas was wrong. A great many cannot even accept such things. Admitting them is such a distant prospect that it is almost unthinkable. Very few display this strength. A great many display the utter weakness that is its antithesis. Stubbornly maintaining one's wrongness in a desperate attempt to keep one's fragile ego from falling apart entirely. Willingly choosing to be wrong due to an intense irrational fear of admitting that one is fallible. What embodies weakness if not this? What embodies weakness if not the inability to accept the reality, the acceptance of which is a rational necessity? True strength lies in choosing to be right, and not to the detriment of the ego. For one must also construct an ego, a rational sense of self, which is not so utterly shaken by the inescapable reality of one's fallibility. We are fallible. Each and every one of us is fallible. We can and should be strong rational creatures and accept that reality. Or we can be defined by weakness, an inability to do anything other than cradle an ego, of which the word fragile is a generous descriptor. For it is not merely fragile, it exhibits a fragility, a desperate stubbornness, which embodies weakness in its most dogmatic and destructive form. Most ironically, by alleging our infallibility, we prove the contrary. In a desperate attempt to be flawless, we become even more flawed. To have one's intellectual development halted by a fragile ego and the resulting desperate dogmatism is pure weakness. The rational look to improve and advance their worldview. This cannot be done if you can't accept that you are wrong. To stand in the path of one's intellectual development because one's self-worth and one's beliefs, claims, ideas, and arguments have become dangerously intertwined. There is true weakness in this. To accept, much more to admit, that one is wrong, embodies pure strength. A strong, unshakable ego, and an eagerness to prioritize the rational necessity of intellectual progression. To be incapable of accepting and admitting when one is wrong embodies pure weakness. A fragile ego, the coddling of which necessitates a desperate embrace of dogmatism and rejection of rationally desirable intellectual progress. Some people hold contrary views. Some people regard admitting that one is wrong as a display of weakness. But to be dominated by such irrational views, to be scared of admitting one's wrongness out of fear of looking weak, is weakness of the purest, truest form. To halt one's intellectual development out of fear that idiots may regard you as weak. Is this not the purest expression of weakness that there is? To sacrifice your intellectual progress simply to be safe from the contempt of morons. There is no greater idiocy than this. Sometimes being regarded as weak is the logical conclusion of being strong. Sometimes we are given a choice. We can either be perceived as weak, or we can be truly weak. The strong will always choose the former. The strong do not embrace true weakness due to an irrational fear of the sentiments of idiots. Let us all get better at exhibiting that rare and true strength, the ability to accept and admit that one is wrong. Let us cast the weakness that is the antithesis of this strength into the abyss. Let our egos be strong and rational, and our intellectual progressions endless and unhindered.